Hi everyone, my name is Maddie, welcome back to my channel and welcome to this video, which is one of the most exciting videos I've ever filmed, as this is the official announcement for Whateverthon Round 2. So, many of you will know that in June of last year, I hosted Whateverthon. It was a month-long readathon. It was a great time. It went a little bit messy at the end when my life got really busy and I kind of failed to host my own readathon. But we are back. It's 2022. June of this year, Whateverthon 2 is happening. Now, I've been hinting at this all over the place on sprints and on the Twitter, etc, etc, so I'm sure most of you aren't surprised, but I also know a lot of you have been asking repeatedly, is Whateverthon happening again this year? Obviously, yes. I wasn't sure. For a very long time, I wasn't sure, but it's happening. We're doing it all again, and I am very, very excited. So, first, most basic thing, when is Whateverthon happening? Unsurprisingly, June. It is the entire month of June. Officially, it will be starting at midnight British summertime BST on Wednesday the 1st of June and running through to the end of until midnight BST on Thursday the 30th of June. So the entire month of June is Whateverthon, or Whatever You Want-a-thon is the full name, which I'm realizing I've not even said so far. I am putting it in my time zone. Most of the hosts are British, so it makes sense. However, feel free to do it in your time zone if that's better for you. I mean, it's across a month, a couple hours here or there are really not going to be the be-all and end-all. I can't police it, there's no way for me to know, and I'm not going to police it. I mean, we're gonna say this now, I'm gonna say it about 10 times in this video, but we're gonna start here. This readathon is called Whatever You Want-a-thon. Whatever you want. Please keep that in mind. You can read what you want, you can do what you want, it is all up to you. That is the entire point. And it was with the thought when I first made this of making this for everyone as much as possible. The one other kind of key date I'm going to mention is I am planning to do a 48-hour readathon in the month. Currently, I am planning for that to be the kind of 11th and 12th of June, that Saturday, Sunday. Slightly subject to change, but I will give more details when we come to that. I am sure there'll be sprints to kick it off and sprints throughout the weekend and all of this. There will be things happening. There's not going to be a particular theme around it. It's literally just good fun. I personally really enjoy 48-hour readathons. It really focuses me, and especially as I'm a pretty busy person, I like carving out one specific weekend in the month where I'm just definitely going to read, and I've gone with that one. I did consider doing the first weekend in June because it's right in the beginning, it's a bank holiday weekend in the UK, etc, etc. That weekend is my birthday, so I am not going to be sat inside reading. I will probably be out and about quite a lot, so we're doing it the weekend after, when hopefully I will spend the entire weekend reading along with all of you. But those are the key dates. There's not a lot of them because it's just the entire month. But the thing I just wanted to say before we get into all of the rules and the people and all that super exciting stuff is just the vibe I'm going for this year. I don't know if this is a thing internationally, so if it's not, bear with me, but at least my people from the UK, you will probably be familiar with like the school or the library summer reading challenge. This is such a thing in the UK that libraries and schools would say like over the summer whilst you're not at school, like how many books can you read? And it was like slightly competitive, but it was more competitive with yourself than other people. And it was just a good fun time of a load of people seeing how much they can read all together, and it was just a really, really good time, and that's the vibe I'm going for with this. Like last year, I don't have the numbers to hand, but we read, I think, over 30,000 books. We read an insane amount last year, and like, I'm not saying we're gonna one-up it this year, we may well not, but also there's part of me that's like, could we? Like, I don't care if it's competitive, it's literally just, how much can we read if we have an entire month and everyone just wants to read lots? So that's the overall vibe. Unsurprisingly, therefore, there's no genre, there's no theme, it's whatever you want-a-thon. Anything you consider a book counts. Really short, like essay or transcription of a speech, if you count it, it counts. A graphic novel absolutely counts. An epic fantasy tome that's 1,000 pages long counts. Count whatever you want. The thing I said last year, and I will say repeatedly again this year, just don't be a dick. You can count whatever you want, but don't start counting things that you know don't count just for points. Like, there's no fun in that. There's no community spirit in that. And I really want this to be like a big fun community event. So don't be a dick about it. That's my only rule for all of this. The other thing that is staying completely the same as last year is that the overall kind of idea is that you set a goal for yourself and you then try and read to that goal. So there is a sign up form linked in the description. That is where you sign up for this readathon, exactly the same as last year. You can sign up now, you can sign up on the 30th of June, I do not care. Just sign up at some point. And when you have done so, you will put in there a unique identifier. I will stress this again because it did cause problems last year. Use Instagram handle, Twitter handle, I don't care. Something which you are damn well sure is going to be unique to you. And please, please, please remember it. You will need it throughout the readathon to log all of your books. It is going to be key. And I will try and find a way to have the list of people who have signed up public. So if you can't remember what you signed up onto, you might be able to find it. But I cannot search for individuals. There are too many people. It's not possible. So please remember your unique identifier. It will make yours and my lives so much easier. And then the other thing you'll put in the sign up form is how many books you're planning to read. I will just say here, feel free to set your goal as whatever you want. Feel free, if you're having a bit of a reading slump, to set it lower than what you'd normally read. If you want to challenge yourself, set it higher. Again, just don't be a dick. Don't be that person who normally reads 20 books a month and sets your goal as 2 for the sole reason of getting points. If you're setting it as 2 because you know you have a busy month and that's realistic, go for it. I'm not going to judge, but you know, don't be that person. Set it as a sensible thing for your reading. And basically, all you have to do to participate in this readathon is set a goal, try and reach it. That's it. That's all there is that is mandatory. There are a lot of ways to get points, which we will get into in a minute, but that is going to be your main form of getting points. And as I am sure that precisely no one is surprised given it's me, as there are points, there are teams. So with there being points and teams, this is of course going to be competitive. It's all in good fun, it's all good vibes, but I know the people on these teams and I know for a fact that the competition is going to be great. So all bring that competitive spirit if you want to, or just read and vibe, that's completely chill too. But let's go through who is on our teams. So in total this year, we do have 15 hosts for this readathon, which is quite a lot, but you know, bigger and better, making it a community event, why not? And these 15 hosts are split across 4 teams. For anyone quick on the mental maths, that does mean the teams aren't quite even, but when I reveal the people on the smaller team, I think you'll understand that they're gonna be okay. I'm just gonna shuffle over because I think we're gonna need this space for graphics. But our first team, and our slightly smaller team, is the TBR Travelers. And heading up this team, we have the wonderful Gav from How to Train Your Gavin, Pris from Pris Peruses, and Sandra from Got a Thing for Things. Anyone who has seen any of these 3 individuals, let alone the 3 of them together, will understand why there only needs to be 3 people on this team. They have got the energy in spades. They are bringing the chaos. You guys should see the group chat of these hosts. I swear to God, we have a group chat with all 15 hosts and these guys rule it. So that is your first team option. Your second team option is the Beach Readers, which is headed up by Steph from Steph Loves, Ashley from A Frolic Through Fiction, India from What India Read, and Cassidy from Covers with Cassidy. I did try this year to split up people who'd been on teams together last year, but that completely failed. So Steph and India are together again, and this is our Beach Readers. The third team is the Sunset Scholars, and this team is being hosted by Jade from JD Ray Reads, Beth from Books Nest, Christy from Christy Reads, and me. Just like last year, I could not possibly resist being on a team myself, and so I'm teaming up with the Sunset Scholars this year. And then finally, the fourth team is the Shelf Slayers, and this is being hosted by Becca from Becca and the Books, Ro from Wandering Through Worlds, Spoops from Spoopy Hole, and Cody from Cody's Book Corner. So you have 4 wonderful teams to choose from. And I'm sure many of you are wondering, how the hell am I supposed to choose? I mean, it's completely up to you. You guys are totally free to choose whichever team you want. You may have noticed just by the people on each of the teams, they are not genre themed like they were last year, But when we get into all the points, there is one thing that could help you decide if you need it, but also you are completely free to choose whichever of the 4 teams you want. Choose your favorite booktuber, choose the vibe, choose the color and the style that you like for the team. Totally up to you. And talking of color and style, we have potentially the most exciting announcement of the readathon. So I'm very quickly going to pause on like readathon info and rules and make this very exciting announcement. Now, I'm sure some of you saw this coming, but there was a big ask last year for me to create merch for the readathon. And I'm a very busy person. I did not have the time to create that and ship it all out. It is not within my capability whatsoever. However, some of you may know that some of my friends have recently launched an Etsy shop selling bookmarks. So we may have done something. So obviously I'm talking about Steph and Jade, who have the Etsy shop Daisy and Bee. So I designed these bookmarks and Steph and Jade have very graciously agreed to kind of collab with Daisy and Bee, where they will be selling them and distributing them. All profits will be going to Steph and Jade and Daisy and Bee. They are doing all of the grunt work of getting these sorted. So I'm very quickly going to show you all the designs. I will say I will put some of the digital designs up on the screen as well, because we have had some misprints in this first batch, but they're being rectified before they get sent out to you guys. But I don't have the rectified versions with me. So to start us off, I will do the just readathon central bookmark, which isn't related to any team, and that is the Whateverthon Don't Be a Dick bookmark. So this was a bit of a phrase that kind of got coined last year. I've already used it this year. It's gonna stick around. And people asked for merch with it on, so we have it. A little rainbow book stack that says Don't Be a Dick. And the back is just Whateverthon 2 with a nice rainbow. All of the backs are just nice gradients. We then have the 4 team bookmarks. So these are our 4 team bookmarks, starting with the TBR Travelers, which is this lovely camper van kind of sunrise theme. And there's the back of that one. Next up is the Beach Readers, which is this gorgeous like sunny beach vibe and this beautiful ocean kind of color back. We then have the Sunset Scholars, which are unfortunately the ones which were victims of the misprint, but nonetheless I'm obsessed with the design, and I'll put the digital design up here so you can see it in all its glory, with a lovely sunsetty kind of back. And finally, we have the Shelf Slayers with this kind of fantastical nightscape. And again, a gorgeous back. So you may have figured out the kind of overall vibe I was going for here was like times of day, dawn, day, sunset, night. It was just good fun. The team names were named by the teams, and they kind of just led me into this, and this is where we ended up. So these will be going up live on the Etsy shop at I think around 6:30, assuming that's when this video ends. If not, I'll put the time on the screen. But basically, as soon as this video is over, they will be live in the Daisy and Bee shop. I have precisely no idea if these are going to sell out or not, but if they do not panic. We do have time and resources to do a restock. We just really had to completely guess at quantities, so no panics, they do sell out. They may well not though, I have no idea, but I hope you enjoy. You all asked for merch last year. This year we got it. Cool, that's out the way. We know the teams, we've seen the merch. How do you earn points? Just gonna stress this again. You are 100% free to completely ignore this section of the video. You do not need to worry about this if you do not want to. This is completely and utterly optional for anyone that wants to bother with it all. As long as you sign up, set a goal, and track your books at the link below, which will also be shared on Twitter and Discord, etc., then you will earn points for your team. Everything will be done for you. In terms of knowing any of the details past that, I've got that sorted on my end. All you have to do is sign up with a unique name and continue to use that unique name when you track your books, and you will be earning points. Sorted. All of this other stuff is just if you want to do it and you want to be competitive. But if you just want to read and vibe and track your books as you go, amazing. Good for you, you do that, you don't have to do anything else. But for those of you a bit more like me, a little bit more competitive, a little bit insane, there's many ways you can earn points. Specifically, there are 4 ways that you can earn points, and we're gonna run through them now. The first way is the one I've already discussed, meeting your goal. Very simply, when you put your goal in, as you track books, you will get towards that goal. When you reach a quarter of that goal, you will earn 500 points. So for example, if your goal was 8 and you have managed to track 2 books, you will get 500 points. Once you have read 4 books and therefore made it halfway through your goal, you get an additional 1,000 points. So your total for the goal so far at that point will be 1,500. Once you have reached 3/4, you get an additional 1,500 points, bringing your total to 3,000. And then when you complete your goal of reading, for example, 8 out of 8 books, you get an additional 2,000 points, which brings you to a grand total of 5,000. This, I expect, will be the majority of points for most people, because as we get into other things, you'll see other ways of earning points, and I think it works out roughly that you would have to read a minimum of 20 books to get that many points elsewhere. So for most people, meeting your goal is probably going to be the majority of your points. But there you go, that is way 1 to earn points, the simplest way. The second way, also very simple, is reading books. Every book that you read will earn you 100 points on top of those goal scores. And then every book you've read past your goal will get you 200 points instead of 100, because you did well, you smashed your goal, you get a bonus. So simply, again, if your goal is 8, then the first 8 books you read will get you 100 points each, and then your 9th book will get you 200, your 10th book will get you 200, on and on forever to however far you get. Again, simple. Hopefully we're all following up to this point. The third way, again very simple, is to read diversely. This is not dissimilar at all from last year. I think I've just slightly changed up the points for it. So if the book that you read is diverse in one way or another, it will get you points. The way I've done it this year is that if the book you read is LGBT, then you get 50 extra points. So a standard book might get 100. If you read an LGBT book, it's 150. And then there is the other category, which I'm currently lumping in POC author or characters, disability rep, mental health representation, neurodivergence, anything else that you feel makes the book diverse. I think those are the ones I've listed. Feel free if there's something else you can think of that you feel falls within, like, this is, you know, promoting people and reading a different story from your own experience, that kind of thing. Feel free to lump it in with that. And that is 25 points. You can, of course, do both of these. So if you read a book which is a book LGBT and diverse, you get 175 points, or you can do either or none of the above. But the points are there if you want them. The only reason LGBT is worth more is A, do we see me? And B, it's June, it's Pride Month in the UK, and so we're going for all the LGBT books this month. Now, the fourth and final way to earn points is the very slightly more complicated one, but I promise you it's not as complicated as it may seem. And this is the bingo board of prompts. Some of you who watch my other videos may have noticed I've started a reading game this year, which revolves around a bingo board. I'll link it if you're interested, but I'm not going to go on about it here. But therefore, I thought it would all be good fun to tie in a bingo board to this year's Whateverthon. So very, very basically, it is a 5x5 bingo board. I'll probably put it here, probably starting with an empty grid. And in the middle is a free space. You do not have to do anything for this space, just consider it already crossed off. So there's only 24 things you have to think about. There are 14 prompts, which are the same for every single person taking part in the readathon. There are 5 prompts, which are kind of non-reading prompts, or just a little bit different. They're not so much like pick a book to fit this prompt. And then there are 5 prompts, which are team specific. And I will say now, these have been chosen by the team captains. Do not blame me if you don't like your prompts. It's not my fault, they chose them. So this is the layout of all 4 bingo boards, but obviously the team prompts are going to change depending on what team you're on. To go over how the scoring for this is going to work, simple first, each prompt that you complete is worth 25 points, and each bingo that you get, so that is either a horizontal line, a vertical line, or a diagonal, is 100 points. For each book that you read, you can use up to 3 prompts, therefore a maximum of 75 points for that one book. Obviously you have a maximum of 3 per book. That is of the 14 reading prompts plus 5 team prompts, so maximum 3 out of those 19. But the 5 non-reading prompts, obviously you can complete completely separately. There will be a separate section on the tracking form for those. And just each time you log a book, if you've completed any of those between your last book and that book, just tick them off. It's not going to be a perfect system. So if you join sprints every day, but you only finish 1 book in the week, yeah, you can only technically log joining sprints once. I'm sorry, it's how we're going to have to do it. But every time you finish a book, you'll have the option to say if you have ticked off any more of those non-reading prompts. Any prompt can be used however many times you want, but each bingo can only be ticked off once until you've completed the entire board. I've realized that might be a bit confusing. I'm going to give examples. I'm going to explain this in a lot of detail for anyone that needs it. If you feel like you've got it, feel free to just skip past this section, but I'm going to go into some detail for anyone who's a little bit confused. I will also say, for some of you who may complete the board really easily, because I have done the maths on it, you can complete the entire board with 6 books, so it may not be possible for everyone, but I would imagine for a lot of people that's a relatively achievable thing. I will link in the Google Drive below where there'll be documents for literally all the rules like last year. In there will be reshuffled versions of each team's board. So once you've completed it, you are welcome to complete the exact same one again, but if you want to mix it up, there'll be a reshuffled version. It's the exact same prompts, they'll just be in different places, a different order, so you have to combine different things to get your bingos. So let me explain in a little bit more detail by what I mean by prompts can be repeated, but bingos cannot. Bingo board back on the screen. So let's say you have completed the entire top row. You have completed those 5 prompts. Don't worry what the prompts are for now, I will go through them all in a minute, but say you've completed the entire top row. You have earned that bingo, you've had the points for each of those individual prompts, and you've had the 100 points for that bingo. Say you now want to read a book that has 2 prompts from that top line and 1 from elsewhere. You are more than welcome to claim those top 2 prompts again. You will still get 75 points for that. Now, say the next book you read, or next thing you do, because some of them aren't reading prompts, means you cross off 3 on that top row, meaning in effect you have crossed off that entire top row twice. You will still be able to claim the 25 points for each of those prompts, totaling 75. You cannot reclaim the bingo unless the entire rest of your board was full before then, and therefore you were starting a new bingo board and recompleting the bingo. The total number of bingos you can get is 12. That is 5 horizontal, 5 vertical, and the 2 diagonals. You cannot get more than 12 bingos until your entire board is complete. So you cannot say do the top line twice, do the middle column twice, and have gaps. You must complete all 12 once, and then you can restart the board. Again, you could complete any prompt. So you could complete this prompt here 10 times throughout the readathon and no others, and you can get the 25 points every single time. You could have that entire row ticked off and still complete that prompt every single book and still count it. That is fine. The only thing you cannot do is repeat the bingos. Hopefully that makes sense. I don't think it's that complicated. I'm just worried people won't understand. The other thing that I feel like is worth clarifying is in the form you are filling in for completing a book, it will ask you the standard, what's your unique ID, the book title, the page numbers, which 3 prompts or less that it has completed, and then there will be a question of how many bingos were completed with that book. 0, 1, 2, 3. Those will be the options. That is what you will see. And I just really, really want to make it super, super clear here that this is not how many bingos have you completed on your board in total. It is how many have you completed with that book. So obviously the very first book you complete is unlikely to give you a bingo. Say you've completed these 3 random prompts. Obviously your answer for how many bingos is going to be 0. Let's say later on in the readathon or in another board, another person, whatever, that this is where the board currently stands, and with your next book, you complete these 2 prompts. By completing the one currently circled, you have got yourself a bingo with this horizontal line. Fab. Now, next scenario, you've got this board going on. You complete this prompt. By completing that one prompt, you have ticked off both a horizontal and a vertical line at once. That means with that one book, you have got 2 bingos. Amazing. Say 2 on the answer form. And then similarly, if you manage to get this to happen, for example, you complete a corner as a final prompt, you could tick off 3 bingos at once, as shown here. You would tick off 3. I will say again, it does not matter how many bingos you already have ticked off with previous books. Those will have been logged on your previous tracking. just say how many you got with the book you just finished. Otherwise, obviously the answer would need to be a lot higher than 3. That's why it's capped at 3. Hopefully that makes sense. Please check this on your own behalf, because getting a bingo, I think I've said, gets you 100 points. It's the equivalent of a book. So make sure you're not missing out on any, but also just make sure you're not ticking 3 every time. Again, for anyone who's watched all this and is feeling confused or whatever, you do not have to worry about literally any of this. It's just there if you want it. I will put all of these explanations in documents in the Google Drive below, so please read them if you are confused, but hopefully it all makes sense. It is simple. I've just got into a lot of detail for anyone that doesn't quite get it. Anyway, I feel like it's about time that we go through all of the prompts which you're going to be faced with. So I'm gonna fill in this board as we go. I don't know how readable it's gonna be on a screen of this size. Obviously the graphic linked down below if you want it. There are also like Instagram graphics if you want to put this on your story and like show which book you read for which one. Feel free, but let's run through the prompts. So I'm going to start with the 14 prompts that all the teams are going to complete. We're then going to go through the 5 non-reading prompts, and then I'll run through the 5 prompts that are team specific. Again, everything is chaptered below, so feel free to skip to the relevant parts, especially if you're watching this back later to get more details. You're not going to want to watch the entire spiel again. Most of these prompts are pretty self-explanatory. Also, most of them are very vague. As always with this, don't be a dick. Feel free to twist them to whatever you want. Just don't be, you know, a dick about it. If you feel like it counts, it counts. The other thing I will say is please, 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 please use this sparingly, but especially with the 14 prompts that everyone's doing, less so with the team prompts I feel like, but the 14 that everyone's doing. If there is one prompt stopping you from completing the entire bingo board because it just doesn't in any way fit your reading, just change it out. Don't change it completely, try and keep the essence the same, but I'm not going to be mad if you slightly switch it, and then when you're filling in the form, just tick off the one in the same position and call it done. Please do not change the entire bingo board. This is just if you need that one exception, do it. But genuinely, I think these are all vague enough that no one should have that problem. But just in case, I don't want that to be the limiting factor for anyone. So the very first prompt, probably the easiest one on the entire board, is the, an, of, a, and. This very simply means read any book with any of those words in the title. So like 90% of books published. Yeah, any of them. Has any one of those words, you're good to go. If you want to hard mode this, feel free to go with like the standard YA fantasy structure of the something of something and something, like A Court of Thorns and Roses, A Song of Ice and Fire, that kind of vibe. Feel free if you want to do that. It obviously works and it is like hard mode, but that's not what this means. Just any of those words. Next is a book under 300 pages. I don't feel like that needs explaining. Next up for reading prompts is recently hauled. Again, I have purposely kept this vague because recently for everyone is going to be really different. It could be the last book you hauled, it could be a book you hauled in the last month, the last year, whatever you consider recent. If you have read all of the books you've hauled until one like 3 years ago and that's your most recently hauled book, count it. Recent varies for everyone, but whatever recent is for you. Next is blank color on the cover. For this, you can random color generate a color. There's loads of random color generators out there. You could ask a friend for a color, you could do a poll for a color, whatever you want. Just pick a color, find a cover with that color on it. Maybe don't just like choose a color off the top of your head because, you know, but you know, just find some way of picking a color and find a cover with that color on it. I'm not going to be strict with this. If you want to make it so the entire cover is mainly that color, that's kind of the point. If you want to find a cover with yellow on it and it's a blue cover with one yellow dot, fine. I'm not going to be that person, do what you will. On a previous TBR, again, pretty self-explanatory. I realize not everyone has set TBRs, but the way I'm kind of thinking about this is it could stretch very easily to you bought a book and you said, oh my God, I'm gonna read this the same day I get it or the month I get it, and it's now 3 months ago and you've still not read it. Like that was in effect on your TBR before. Or even a book you started and didn't finish, anything like that. Or want to come at it from a different way, look for a booktuber's previous TBR, any from the last 6 months, year, whenever, and pick a book from that. That also works. It was on a previous TBR. Next up, favorite genre. Very simple. Read a book in your favorite genre. I feel like that's quite self-explanatory. Next up is different format. This Again, a bit up to interpretation. It could either be a different format to what you normally read. So if you normally read novels, maybe read a novella or a graphic novel, or a book of essays or an audiobook, something like that. It could also just be a different format to the previous book you read. If you tend to read across a variety of formats, just if one after the other is different, then your second book would be different than your previous one, and there you go. Next, one-word title. Again, pretty self-explanatory. My only request with this is please make it a true one-word title, so not having a the or an of or an and before the main word, like just one word. Normally with things like this, I'm quite flexible, but please try to keep it to actually a one-word title. Next is a host favorite. I am not going to run through all of the host favorites in this video because there are 15 hosts with 3 favorites each. That is 45 books. I am not recommending you 45 books. There is a graphic, I will put it here. It will be too small to see, but this graphic is also in the description. It will be in the Twitter thread, it will be on the Discord. Go look at it, read any of those 45 books, and like last year, if those books are part of a series, feel free to read any book in that series. That all counts. The one proviso to this is the definition of a series. There were lots of questions about this last year, and I'm going to use the 2 examples that came up a lot. First being Robin Hobb. I don't think we have any Robin Hobb on this list, but honestly I cannot remember when I'm filming this. But if, for example, the book was The Assassin's Apprentice, feel free to read any of the 3 books in that trilogy. It does not extend as any book in The Realm and the Elderling. Exactly the same for Brandon Sanderson. If someone's favourite book is the first Mistborn book, you can read any books in that Mistborn trilogy, potentially even stretching to Mistborn Era 2 if you really felt like it, but it doesn't mean you can read any book in the Cosmere and count it. That's, I hope, makes sense. Next is continue a series, hopefully self-explanatory, any book that is continuing a series for you. Next is last letter, first letter. This is one we did last year and I really enjoy, so I've brought it back, and I will give an example because it's the easiest way to explain it. But very basically, the last letter of the title of your previous book must be the first letter of the title of your current book. You count this for the second book, so the one that has been chosen because of this. So an example is if I read An Absolutely Remarkable Thing by Hank Green, it ends with a G, so I could read Graceling by Kristen Cashel, because that starts with a G. Next up is poll. Simple, put a poll on Twitter, on the Discord, wherever you want. Make people vote on what book you're reading next. Feel free to have this poll either list the titles of the books if you want people to kind of choose it from books they like, or make it a random emoji poll so people don't know what they're voting for. Anything goes. Next is a less read genre. Again, this can be defined completely by you, whatever you want this to be. It can be just if you read only fantasy, but you read mainly adult fantasy, maybe a YA fantasy. I know that's not technically a genre, but like that's the level you can go to with this. Whatever works for you. If you read really broadly, just something you read a little bit less often, hopefully it's quite simple. And then finally, a 2021 release. That doesn't need any explanation, just a book that was released last year. So those are the reading prompts for everyone. Now quickly going into the non-reading prompts for everyone, starting with cozy reading day or night. I was originally going to call this cozy reading night, but obviously not everyone is a nighttime reader, so feel free to do this at any point. Just at some point, kind of cuddle up, enjoy your book, have a good time. Next is to join the 48-hour readathon. I already mentioned this is likely going to be the 11th and the 12th of June. Just join in. I'm not saying you have to read intensely for the entire 48-hour readathon, just read something within that time. I will say, I realized that if you either complete this board before the 11th or 12th, or if you're trying to repeat it later in the month, it's very difficult because you'll have done the 48-hour readathon. So for this, I just say like, do some kind of reading challenge. I don't care what it is, just have fun with it, but find a way that works for you to take that one off in the future. The next one is guilt-free activity. This was intended to not be reading, but it definitely could be reading. So my kind of idea for this was, I'm really tired, I want to watch a movie, but I feel like I should be reading because I'm doing a readathon. Watch the movie, you're still gonna get points for it. Obviously this could be reading if you want to, so like if you're meant to be out doing errands one day and you don't want to do it and you want to stay home and read, do it. Guilt-free. Just enjoy yourself. This is just like, remember to take a break if and when you want to. The next one is join sprints. Very simple, tune into some sprints at some point during the month. There will be many, many happening, I am sure. If you're not someone that tends to watch sprints, I would say either watch like a read with me video that someone has up, or even just run some sprints for yourself at home. Just some kind of thing like that. And then the final one is to complete a personal goal. This can be whatever you want it to be. It can be a reading goal. It could be read 100 pages every day for a week. It could be read every day for a week. It could be finish 2 books in the 48-hour readathon. It could be go to the gym a lot. That's what mine's going to be. It could be whatever you want. Just set a goal for yourself and try and reach it. And again, just like any of the reading prompts, you can repeat these. Obviously, it's a bit more difficult to kind of define repeating them. But the way these are going to be tracked, I think I mentioned earlier, is just on the form where you're ticking off the 3 prompts. There'll be a section that says, have you completed any of the non-reading prompts? And you just tick off whichever ones you've done between your last book and that one. So if you join sprints every day and therefore like you finished 2 books, you could tick it off for both because you joined them multiple times. And those prompts are on top of your 3 like reading prompts, because obviously they're not reading prompts. They don't relate to a specific book, so you can do them extra. Okay, finally, we are on to the team prompts. We are going to start with the TBR Travelers. So the first prompt for the TBR Travelers is TBR Veteran. That just means a book that's been on your TBR for a long time. You can define a long time by yourself, just a TBR Veteran. Next up is a Portal Fantasy. Pretty self-explanatory. Next is a book featuring an adventure or a quest. Up to you what you define as this. Feel free to go in the Discord and ask recommendations, especially in your team channel. Next is to find a book that has G, P, and S on the cover. So this could be in the title, in the author name, wherever you want on the cover, but the cover must have all 3 letters. And then finally, a middle grade. Quite simple. Next up is the beach readers, and the beach reader specific prompts are firstly a dark romance. Up to you how you define dark romance, but that's the first prompt. The second is a summer thriller. I don't know what the definition of this is because I don't read thrillers, but I'm sure you guys can figure it out. Then a political fantasy. You can see the hosts reflected in these prompts, can't you? Next is an indie or self-pub book. I know we had a lot of questions last year about what counts as indie or self-pub. Feel free to ask people in the Discord, but just anything that's not published by like a massive publisher. And then finally, to fit in with the theme of beach readers, a book with water on the cover. This can be, I would assume, in whatever format you want, but water on the cover. Next up are the Sunset Scholars. The first is a book featuring dragons. Pretty simple. Next is a book about books. So loads of examples of this. The Starless Sea, The 10,000 Doors of January, Shadow of the Wind. There are 1,000,001 others out there. It could be a book about publishing. So I think Emily Henry has a romance out called Book Lovers. That's about books because it's about publishing. So anything along those lines. Next up is a book with a shiny cover. Again, up to you what this means. Does it just mean a bit glossy? Does it mean covered in foil? Up to you. The fourth prompt for Sunset Scholars is S's on the cover. This is S's plural, very similar to that of TBR Travelers, just any book with more than one S on the cover. Yes, this was chosen by Jade because A, our name is, you know, alliteration with 2 S's, Sunset Scholar. I'm a big fan of alliteration myself, if you couldn't tell by my channel name. But she did specifically say this would work for any Sebastian D. Castell book, as his name has 2 S's on it. So there you go, tip from Jade. And then finally, the final prompt for Sunset Scholars is academia theme. This is up to interpretation. It could be that it's, you know, set kind of in a school academy kind of vibe. It's just like learning anything. Interpret it how you will. And then finally, onto the Shelf Slayers and their team prompts, starting with borrow a book. This is borrow a book off someone else's TBR, borrow one from the library, borrow it from a friend, whatever you want. But yes, it can literally be you watch someone's TBR and go like, I'm borrowing that, that's going on my TBR. Next is a spooky book, completely up to your interpretation. Next is a hybrid genre, so this is like a fantasy romance, or I don't even know what else, anything, just any kind of hybrid genre, so it's kind of using multiple genres and mixing the 2 or between the 2, something like that. Next is a purple cover, so this one, don't just do something with a tiny bit of purple on the cover. Try and find like the main color on the cover is purple. And then finally, a weapon on the cover. Self-explanatory, just something with a weapon on the cover. So those are all of your prompts. those are all of your rules. I think that is everything that you need to know. Again, everything is laid out in the Google Drive. All of the scoring, all of everything, it's laid out down below. I will also link down below a personal score tracking spreadsheet if you want to use it. I created one of these last year. Please note, this does not send your books to me. You will not get points for putting them in the personal tracker. This is just if you want to keep track of your own points or try and plan out your TBR tactically, anything like that. And very simply, you put in the book title, you tick off which prompts it completes, and then you can say it was a bingo, it wasn't, whatever. And it just means you can keep track of your own points throughout the readathon, if you want to. But I think that's all the information. Like last year, if I get a lot of questions cropping up multiple times, I will make an FAQ video, but please, 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 I beg of you, do not ask questions until you've looked through all the information on the Google Drive. It should all be there. I realize some things could be confusing. There's a lot of elements to this readathon for those who want them, but I cannot stress enough, the information is there. So please do not ask questions we've already answered. I do not have time to answer the same question over and over, nor do any of the hosts. And I've said this before, I will say it again. If you think a book counts, it counts. Do not be asking, does this count? Like, just make the call. You can ask your friends, you can ask in the Discord chat, but do not be privately messaging any of the hosts checking if we think things count. Like, it's up to you guys. Similarly, if you forget your unique ID, I am really, really sorry, but I can't do anything about that. As I said, I will try to make a list public of everyone that signs up so that you can try and check for yourself. I cannot be checking. Last year there were 4,000 people taking part, which is insanely cool. I cannot go through and check for 4,000 people what username they signed up under, so please use something that you'll remember or write it down or whatever, and make sure you use the same one throughout. If you tick the wrong prompts, if you get the number of bingos wrong, if you forget to submit a book, any of this, I cannot keep track of. On the personal tracker, it does have a column for have you submitted this book or not, if you want to use that to keep track. I cannot be going into the spreadsheet and saying, yeah, you've submitted these 4 books, therefore you've got these ones left to submit. Like, you're gonna have to do it yourselves. I'm really sorry, but I cannot be doing it, and hopefully that is okay. But please, for my sanity, please try and keep track of your own things. Hopefully that is everything. I feel like this video is gonna end up being longer than I thought because I went into a lot of detail, but that's fine. But that's it. This is Whateverthon 2. We are like 3 or 4 weeks out now, I think, when you're seeing this, which is beyond exciting. I cannot wait for this readathon to start. And you will be seeing hopefully a lot of me and a lot of all of the hosts in that month through sprints and everywhere else where people post. If any of you make any videos or anything about Whateverthon, if you make a TBR, if you're doing a reading vlog, please, please, please tag me in all of it, tag the Whateverthon account in all of it. I'm gonna try and make a playlist of Whateverthon videos like I did last year, though it slightly died last year. So please just tag me in everything. I want to see it all. I am so excited. But that is it for the video. Any questions, leave them below. I will do my best. Please check the Google Drive. Please use a unique username and remember it. Don't be a dick. Bye.